Hello, hello, Otafest Podcast. It's another week and another episode. Episode 7 of Season 8. And with me today are Nancy, Jay, and Dio.
Meow.
It was Dio all along.
It was always
Dio.
Dio.
Kono Dioda.
Dio-da.
And we have some news and announcements today. On Saturday, November 5th, 2022, from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., join Otafest as we celebrate the supernatural with a yokai-themed night festival. Tickets are available on site for $15 and will include your very own yokai-themed lantern, which you can use to take part in our lantern lighting ceremony.
Spoopy.
Then take home as a souvenir.
Amazing.
There will be presentations and panels happening both indoors and outdoors, as well as a small exhibitors hall. Check out the event details via facebook.com/Otafest.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay!
Yay.
What is
I'm excited.
everybody's favorite yokai?
The one that performed the maid dance this year.
Oh, okay.
I was
Oh
about
yeah, there was the
the little
The
dragon.
little
What was it called?
dragon
Dragon-y
bro.
thing.
I don't
Yeah, what was
remember
it
the
called?
name.
I don't know the name.
But it was like a wormy dragon bros.
Yeah.
And it was like
Neat.
I loved that
It took a lot of effort to not succumb to the instant your mom response. My heart wanted it. I had to put it back down. I was like, no,
Dio.
Mother.
one. You've been strimming a little much.
a little too much.
Actually,
Oh my god.
on that question, I think I used to read a lot of horror mythology, so I do know a little bit about yokai. There are a few ones I do like. There's ones where it's like someone who their body is sleeping, but they their head essentially leaves their body. There's a yokai who does kind of that thing. There's Yuki Onna, which is
yeah.
the lady
Everybody
of the
likes
snow.
Yuki Onna.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like every
are-
weeb's introduction to Yuki Onna was Mizore from Rosaria Vampire.
I don't know what that is, so no.
Maybe?
Really old anime.
I don't know about that.
Really old, mediocre harem anime. But it was pretty popular in its time.
Yeah. But yeah, the Japanese have some pretty interesting little beasties,
Interesting ones.
spooky boys.
Spoopies,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like everyone likes Kitsune, of course. Everybody
course.
likes Fox Spirit, but of course the most favorite, the OG Kitsune yokai. I don't even know if she counts as a yokai, but good old Tamamo no Mai, the yokai demon who's been sealed in the rock.
Except she's finally free.
Except she's been freed from the rock in modern day times, so
Dwayne Johnson has let her free.
Exactly.
Go.
For me, I like Dodomeki, which is, it's what happens if someone, like a pickpocket or someone steals too much, they get bird eyes sprouting all over their body.
Oh.
And it's just super creepy. It activates that tryptophobia response, kind of
gosh,
like
yeah.
lotus pods, but with eyes.
Yeah. Bird eyes, yeah. Oh, God.
I just think that's super creepy and super cool.
I also
Super
like
creepy.
a theme that Japanese demons or whatnot have are a lot of times they inhabit common everyday belongings, what is it, kama something, the umbrella, umbrella monster.
I was just looking
There's
it
a
up.
there's a
The
lantern
Kasa Obake.
monster. Yeah, Kasa
Yes.
Obake.
Because I was I wanted to talk about that
I
one too.
can't
I love
remember
that
if it's
one.
supposed to be
Old
once an
umbrellas.
item is 50 years old or 150 years
Yeah,
old.
essentially,
That it basically develops its own soul.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting. I love
And
that
then it
idea.
becomes a yokai.
Yeah, it becomes
Okay,
a scary umbrella demon ghost
Okay,
thing.
so who's got a 50-year-old CRT in their basement? That's gaining sentience soon.
Oh god, CRT Obake. It's It's gonna start playing Treehouse at 12 a.m.
You know, you say that,
Okay.
but really old TVs and computer monitors and stuff, once they age, they start having like quirks, you know?
They do.
Yeah.
They kind of just awaken.
Sometimes they've got a face burned into them from too much news watching. And then you turn it off someday and you see that face burned into the screen just staring back at you.
Well,
An old
that's
TV is
creepy.
totally a yokai.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that.
Okay. All right. This is anecdotal evidence, but I accept it.
Exactly.
It's true.
I definitely have creepy memories as a kid of the old CRT. So, we had an old CRT that was like my grandfather's. It was very, very old. It had like the original like knobs for changing
Was it-
channels and
Did it have like the wood paneling around
yes,
it
the
and the
wood
little
paneling
wooden
all
feet?
around
Yeah.
it. It had like these little. Actually, they weren't little. They were like built-in speakers on like the side of it, and it had like that
Yeah.
old mesh over it.
Exactly. My grandpa had one just exactly the same.
Yeah, so we had one of those for a short time. It lived in my room. It wasn't usable. We just needed to store it somewhere, so it sat in my room for a while. It wasn't plugged in ever, and I never turned it on. But every now and again in the middle of the night, if I woke up as a kid, I would see sometimes little patterns or like little dots on the screen. It wasn't glowing brightly, but sometimes I would just see it, and it like as a child, I obviously thought this was really cool. It must be something that old TVs do that our new TVs don't. And yeah,
Yeah, old
TVs
TVs.
aren't supposed to do that.
Old TVs are definitely yokai.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
agree with that.
Absolutely.
New
Remember, we
discovery
still
of the podcast.
we still got to play Phasmo together.
Oh,
Definitely.
we do.
have to play Scary Ghost Game. We have to catch. There are some yokai available in Phasmo.
True.
The
good.
The Yuki-onna is a ghost in
Aren't there also
Phasmophobia.
Oni?
Yeah, Oni as well.
Oh, good. I'm gonna have a great first go at Phasmo with you.
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay, let's
We
not
can
think
go
about that.
yokai watching.
Let's think about great things, tasty things, social things,
Tasty.
like lunch dates.
Food.
Lunch dates
Yes.
with my pod mates.
So, how to do a lunch date Otafest style? Step 1 is make assumptions. Step 2 is never mention the location.
No, that's also step 1. Step 1 is make assumptions. Step 1 is also never mention where you're meeting. Mm-hmm. So we made
I was not part of
plans-
this.
No, you weren't. So what the original plan was for all of us to get together and have a meal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, due to work schedules, some of us could only make one meal, but not the other meal. So it ended up being like 2 meals in a day with slightly different audiences.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Me and Dio
And-
had a great foodie day yesterday.
We really did. Like, I got to eat some great food yesterday. I didn't have to cook, and I just got to enjoy, different, not only different kinds of cuisine, but 2 completely different cultures of cuisine.
I also had a very, very good foodie day yesterday. So lunch, Dio, Angelo, and I, and Sean, we met up for hand-pulled beef noodle.
Yes. Chinese northern
amazing.
beef noodles, hand
It
pulled.
was delicious. It was exactly what I wanted. I hadn't been in years since way before pandemic times.
But there
And I
was just
only-
one small hiccup, wasn't there?
Well, I only knew of one location. So when we decided to meet there, I immediately went to that one location, and that was where we were going that day.
Dio and I
and
were
I-
running late.
Okay, so before you say we were running late, allow me to explain a little bit. So I have this thing where I do a lot of planning at work, and that's a big part of my job, and I have a very hard time not letting it bleed out into my real life. Where if people decide they want to have an event, I end up never being the guest. I'm always the person who ends up taking over the planning. So I try and just not be involved, and I let other people handle it, and I just go wherever, I offer my hand and I say, I will go where you will lead me. So I left it in the hands of Nancy and Angelo. And so Angelo didn't get Nancy's message that she was heading out. So and Angelo noticed the message as I was about to get into the shower.
Oh!
And I said, well, I'm still going to get in the shower. I'm not going to go out and be stinky. So that made us a little bit late.
So we decided to drive instead of taking the train down to Kellen Beef Noodle in downtown. And Nancy she messages us saying, yeah, we just got a table. Wonderful.
And I'm
We're
like,
only
cool,
a minute
great.
away. We walk through the door. We look to our left. We look to our right. And not a single Nancy or even a Sean to be found.
And so I just turned to
I don't know. Did you
Angelo.
ask the other customers if their names were Nancy or Sean? They're like, okay.
So I turn to Angelo and I say, did you confirm which Callan beef noodle we're going to? And Angelo goes, I didn't know there was more than one.
Oh!
And Nancy also goes, I didn't know there was more than one.
That's an absolute lie because we've been to both.
We've been to
I
both.
thought they'd moved. Or something like
I
that.
knew they did not move, and I only knew of the original location, so I went straight to that one.
So me and Dio frantically drive back to the other location, and we had a lunch that couldn't be beat. It was so
amazing.
good.
It
I
was
will
amazing.
say, I think a lot of people don't know about the second location, which is interesting because in the main
It was
location,
almost completely empty.
it was almost completely empty. And then the interesting thing is in the main location's a little bit, it's showing its age, and that's okay. But it is showing its age as a building. But they have a big poster right next to the cash register that says, new location, downtown. And it has like all the opening. And I'm just looking at that and I'm like,
Yup.
And so it was really interesting because the downtown one was very empty. Like there was tons of space. It was very empty. It's a relatively new space. It's near the Kirby station for local listeners. Whereas the original location, which is still fantastic and absolutely worth visiting, is on Center Street, right where it just past where it intersects with 16th Ave.
Now, one thing that I really like about Kalen Beef Noodle is like you get your food, but you also get like a show.
You get to watch
You
them
definitely
hand pull
do.
their noodles. It's really, really cool to watch. I will never, ever get old.
It's
get
just-
tired of that.
When the guy pulls out a giant lump of dough and starts pulling it, starts like almost throwing it around like a jump rope, doing the twist with it, it's just so cool. And I feel like this is something of a trend with a lot of restaurants. It seems like they're having more of an open kitchen. Mm-hmm. And you get to like see what's going on back there. One other place that me and Dio used to go to every now and then, Via Chibo, they've got an open kitchen there. And while there isn't really much to see, like for the most part, you're not looking at anything. It's just interesting to be able to see it. But every now and then on the grill or on the stove, there's a big flare up of fire, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, you get to
That's
watch.
always fun to watch.
Yeah, you get to watch how
Someone
your
lost
food is
eyebrows that
prepared.
day.
But yeah, Callan beef noodle is a very special experience because not only is it hand-pulled noodles, and you get to choose the kind of noodle you want. So you can get, if you like narrow noodles, you can get that. If you like thick noodles, you can get that. If you like wide but thin, you can get that. But you get to watch your food be prepared in front of you. And so not only are your noodles sort of custom and in front of you, but, you also get to choose, when they offer you chili, you get to choose, how much chili you do or don't want. I'm not a big fan of spicy food. And so you can just be like, yeah, no chili. But I like to always ask for just a little bit because I feel like it enhances the flavor. And so they'll give you like a quarter of like a big ladle and they'll spoon it on for you and ask you, is that enough or do you want more? And so it's a really special experience because you get to take this big, hot bowl of freshly made, just cooked, you watch them get pulled and cooked in front of you, noodles with really nice, in my case, I always like to get the beef bowl because nothing beats Alberta beef.
It's
and so you
classic.
get these nice cooked beef fillets, and then I always like to get the combo set so you get some beef shank on the
You
on
get
the side as well.
Tea egg? Is it a tea egg or soy sauce?
Yeah,
egg?
tea egg,
Yeah.
which
Really,
is
really
so
good.
yummy. And that's
And
when
they
I
give you
taught
extra salt.
they do extra salt so you can customize the flavor to your preference. And this is when I learned that I needed to teach Angelo and Nancy how to peel a boiled egg.
Yo,
You gotta let it cool down.
Yep. Apparently,
There's a
you
science.
wait for it to cool down, and I was like, science says that you're correct,
Yep.
But
yep.
I'm impatient.
So what I do
but I
is
am impatient and hungry, and I need to eat my egg now
so what
and
I
dip it in all the
do
salt.
is I crack it on the side of the table because it is hot and like you can feel like the steam from the tea will be coming off of it. Is I'll crack it, I'll peel off just a little piece to help like release some of the steam and then just let it sit. And once it's cooled off a little bit, then the shell will come off all in one nice piece and you won't have like little chunks of egg coming with it. But if you don't want to wait and you're boiling eggs at home, the tip is after you're done soaking them, or if you're just going to eat them without soaking them in tea or soy sauce, dunk them in an ice bath for like 10 seconds. And then just like take it out and then it'll be cool enough on the outside to just peel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, hard-boiled eggs are okay, but you want soft-boiled eggs.
Oh, soft-boiled eggs are delicious.
Honestly.
They're my favorite.
I love both. But I will
Soft-boiled
say,
or like medium-boiled if you're gonna keep them for a bit longer and not just eat them right after you cook them.
Yeah.
Oh, just like you want like a little gumminess in the yolk, but you don't want it to be solid yolk.
I like all of it.
I do
even
like
a
hard-boiled
solid
eggs.
yolk.
Yeah, I will like enjoy a hard-boiled egg as well. I think it works really well with the tea egg, just because like the yolk, you get that nice color differentiation between where the tea has soaked into the yolk, which is really really fun to look at. But I will say, especially if I'm going to put the egg in something like a soup, or like on noodles, soft-boiled egg rules. So
Rules
yummy.
Is crowned king, but like. I like hard-boiled eggs only if they haven't been overboiled, so you don't get that gray layer right over the yolk.
True.
Yeah.
The tea egg I had yesterday was definitely beyond that point, but I didn't care because it was done with seasoning, so it wasn't like eating an entire rubber ball. But I definitely learned that there was a difference after moving out and actually asking my mom how to properly hard-boil an egg. Apparently the easiest way to do it is to get your eggs in water to a full like rolling boil and then leave it covered, take it off heat, and just let it sit for 10 minutes.
Interesting.
And then it's done. It is the perfect hard-boiled, like everything is cooked all the way through, but you don't get the gray layer.
The gummy texture too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat. So that was really good. If you've never had Callan beef noodle, doesn't matter which location you go to, but if you are local to Calgary or ever in Calgary, for example, in time for Otafest, Callan beef noodle is really great, really enjoyable. Some of the best noodles you can have. Delicious.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
That
Man,
is
we should be
going
getting
to-
sponsor money before calling them out like that.
It's making its way to like to my list of winter comfort food.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, like,
Absolutely.
we've had an extraordinarily nice fall so far. Like, not a single snowflake to be seen.
Don't jinx it.
Bro, don't be superstitious. It
I'll
just
be as
it's gonna
stitious as I
happen.
want to be. I'll
It's
be
gonna happen.
hyperstitious if I need to be.
It's happening. Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
But yeah, like things like hot pot, things like kale and beef noodle, or any noodle soups in general, just fantastic for wintertime. I'll have kale and beef noodle any time of the year, but like I appreciate
Same.
hot broths with some spice in them, especially during the winter. So I'm looking forward to
Just
winter
warms
just
you
so
up
it like
inside.
so it hits the perfect spot.
Yeah.
But speaking of things that hit the perfect spot, every now and then you gotta do some KBBQ. KBBQ
Yeah.
is almost like a tradition for us. And
Yeah.
while we're greatly disappointed that Nancy couldn't join us on the KBBQ adventure,
I blame everyone's scheduling weirdness.
Fair, valid. It was in every way an adventure. We
It
have
was.
our normal place that we like to go, the place that we really like, that we enjoy, that's comfortable, that tastes right, that's priced well. We like Gogi.
We know what to expect.
And
Yeah.
so we went to Gogi. We walked in, we were like, holy moly, it's a little bit busy. But they've got the patio open. I haven't seen that from them before. Mm-hmm. And so
So they
we
even
asked
had
the
extra
dudes.
room.
And they were still pumping.
They were like,
Yeah.
we can get a table for you in an hour, maybe.
And we were just like, oh.
Whoops.
Sir, we needed the KBBQ 20 minutes ago, not 60 minutes from now. I'm sorry.
So we said, okay, well, let's head out. There's other places around. Where do we want to go?
We make
Nearby,
the trek.
we've decided to go to Sushi Barbecue Inn, which is like,
Yes.
it's a mix between like KBBQ and JBBQ. 'Cause
Sushi
it has-
Barbecue Inn has been a landmark location since the university days.
Yeah, exactly. It's right next to Sate. So it's very popular with students. And then, if you want sushi, if you want good sashimi, you'll get that. But you'll also get the nice, like, barbecue experience of, they give you all different kinds of cuts of meat and you get to cook it over the open grill, and it's great.
My best memory at Sushi Barbecue Inn was when Jane leaned back in his chair and broke it.
Indeed, we did take a friend there, and he broke the chair at Sushi Barbecue Inn. And so we get there, and, it's full. It's pretty full.
I saw multiple empty tables from outside.
Indeed. So we were like, again, the patio was open. Most of the patio was empty. The parking lot was full. So we kind of had to smooch in. We had to kind of like sneak into the small car, compact car parking spot. That was like in the corner. So it was like, oh, we're going to have to like have a person help me back out so I don't hit the trailer hitch of the truck that's parked perpendicular to me two spots
gosh.
down.
Oh
But we sneak in. We get to the Sushi BBQ Inn, and there's a bunch of people outside the entrance, so we send Jay as our ambassador to find out if there's space. And Jay returns, he comes back outside and says, they say in about an hour.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
And again, I was just like, there's the patio that they've taken up some of their parking spots with, and I'm like, there are multiple open tables. I see
The
soy
reality
sauce
must
bottles
be-
on these tables.
They
are
must
their
not have had
tables.
enough staff to keep up. That's the only thing that I can imagine.
That's
yeah,
what
there
I
was
would
some, there
imagine
were
as
some,
well.
there were some tables inside that were empty too. So I was like a little confused. There was probably about 10 people, I think, waiting in front of us or so. As
Yeah,
well.
Interesting.
more or less.
Now I was hungry. Jay was hungry. Dia was hungry.
I didn't eat since
I
12.
was weak. I was like, how much longer do we go before we simply decide on pub burgers?
Ooh.
And Jay
Said
held
no.
fast. Jay refused. Mm-hmm. It
And
was a
slapped him
night
down.
for BBQ.
And so while these two were arguing, or not arguing, discussing, I figured, you know what? I'm going to call up Seoul BBQ.
She used the power of technology.
And I was like, I'm going to call them. And here was my reasoning for choosing Seoul BBQ. They're very popular, but they're a little bit more expensive. Not, horrendously expensive, but like a little bit more expensive than
They're like
Goji or
$8
Sushi
more
BBQ.
expensive, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's like $8 more, which isn't like unreasonable, but it is more expensive. So I figured, they're gonna be, for people who are just looking for some KBBQ fun with friends, they might not choose Seoul as their first place. That tends to be more for like a fancy party or like a fancy gathering. Then the other thing is Seoul is located off of McLeod Trail. And so the big thing about Goji or Sushi BBQ Inn is they're right by the university. And similarly with, there are other BBQ spots like in downtown, they're close to transit, which makes them very accessible, which is great. Not complaining about it being very highly accessible, but it means that they're going to get lots of
They're
traffic.
going to get accessed.
because of the convenience. So I figured McLeod Trail is good. It's not necessarily far from everything, right? Like Chinook Mall is down there, but it's not really on the train line. It's not necessarily easily accessible by bus. It's not particularly walkable. So if you're going to go there, you're probably planning to drive. And so I figure that's going to make it, especially as it becomes later at night, that's going to make it less popular of a spot. So I call them and I say, well, would you have room for 3 people in, say, 20 minutes? And they were like, yeah, probably. Do you want to make a reservation? And I was like, no. And they were like, oh, did you change your mind? And I was like, no. I'm just checking. I wanted to see, because I could hear in the background, I could hear the gang discussing pub food. So I was like, I don't want to make a reservation, and then we don't want to go for KBBQ anymore. But I get off the phone, and everyone is like, yes, let's head to Seoul KBBQ. And so we drive down. Google Maps takes us on a bit of an adventure.
Oh.
It kind of made us do a loop-de-loop to get there. Like, we drove past
Google Maps was
it.
being weird yesterday.
Yeah.
Google Maps was like, I will make you hungrier. You will eat more barbecue.
Yeah.
With
Everything
my
wanted you to be hungry
influence.
yesterday.
Indeed. So it had us drive past the location, turn off on a different street, do a loop around, and come back on the right side of the street, which was like it's fine, but like, for what reason when you can just turn left because there's lights next to the building? But
Yep.
Either way, we got there. And we get in, and we're like, do you guys have room for 3? And
The
they're
guy
like,
asks, do you have a reservation?
and we go,
No. And then he's like, doesn't matter. Right this way.
Oh
Exactly.
my god. My heart.
And so we go
My
in,
heart.
and it was, it was not super busy. Like, there was a big group, like a party group, in like sort of their like, booth private section, but like most of the regular tables were pretty empty, and so we sat down, and we were good to eat.
Stars lit in my eyes as soon as I saw the menu. Whereas at like Gogi, for example, they've got really good meats. The selection is reasonable. They've got like some beef bulgogi, some pork belly, the thick boy bacon.
Adult bacon.
They got the chicken. But this place, good lord, they've got the spicy adult bacon.
They're the
They-
Arby's. They're the Arby's of KBBQ in the city. They have the meats.
They have the meats. They had a huge selection of meats. They had
Yeah,
They had some decent sides too. Like at Gogi, you can't get some onion or mushrooms to throw on the grill.
It's true.
And so that was a nice addition.
I would say they're worth the price bump up. Like, again, like if it's not within your budget, then don't go, I guess. But like, because other places like Gogi, which is our still our go-to, despite us knowing that Seoul now has like a bigger, more expanded like meat menu.
Selection.
Yeah, but like
I would even go as far as to say that the meats at Seoul tasted better. Like they were higher quality meats, I think.
Well,
But-
time to do a fair comparison.
yeah. Oh no, I have to go for more Korean barbecue.
Oh no!
What
I
a
have to go see my
shame.
podcast.
I don't
I
know.
can't believe we're going to have to do this.
But the one
I
thing that
will do
Seoul
it.
had
For science.
that was super interesting that Gogi doesn't have is the pork jowl.
Yeah,
And you were scared.
indeed.
I was like,
You-
the piggy cheeks, what are we going to eat those for? And then we
You're
got
gonna
them
eat them.
as I will let Jay explain what it was like.
It is if pork chop was also bacon.
Yes.
It is
It's-
meaty. It is chewy. It
is
can be
fatty.
crispy because you've got the, you cook it nice.
yeah,
It is wonderful.
it's very good. It's very rich, very umami.
It's-
It's very, very juicy.
It's the
good.
marbled ribeye version of pork chop.
Yeah,
and that is
Pork
a good
chop,
thing.
God knows, could use it.
Yes.
what was
Pork
that?
chop can get pretty dry.
What was that big
Yes.
slab of beef that we had?
The ribeye?
The
ribeye.
Yeah.
The ribeye
Yeah,
was also
ribeye was-
fantastic.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is we're doing this again.
Yes.
Very
We
soon.
have to
course.
drag a Nanchi there.
Okay.
True.
Now,
Of course.
Oh no,
Keep
twist
in
my
mind-
rubber arm.
it is more expensive, so
But
bring Sean,
not
bring
absurdly.
Sean, so that
Yes,
the money's worth can be devoured.
indeed.
I posted a picture online, and it was a pile of food that we got, an absolute
Oh, yeah.
pile.
They give you
mountain
the
of
order
meat.
sheet. The order sheet has like 3 columns. They're like round 1, round 2, round 3. We only made it through round 1
What? No
because
way.
we ordered like more
ordered
than
everything
enough.
on round one.
So they don't really skimp you out on your like order. Like if you like you put in your amounts. Like I basically, for the most part, I basically made sure that we had enough portions for for each person kind of thing. Like if
Yeah.
it was like beef bulgogi and like how many portions, I'd be like 3 portions, please. And then for like the samgyeopsal, the addled bacon, the pork belly, you get it per slice. So I was just like, oh, I'll get 2 slices per person kind of thing. Like that makes sense, right? So I just like kind of threw that all in. And then like they don't be like, oh, you wanted 6, here's 4 kind of thing. They're like, all right, that's what they wanted, so here you go.
And they're
only
big pieces.
The only thing they shorted us on.
Thick.
The only complaint that I could possibly have. Not enough sauce.
Yeah.
No,
And what was
that's
those
not it.
lettuce wraps?
The lettuce. We ordered lettuce wraps to go with it, but it was like getting shredded salad.
At one point, I reached in and I pulled out one of the greens, and I was like, "This is a garnish. Like, what am I gonna wrap in this?"
Yeah.
So
boy.
at Gogi, for example, you order lettuce wraps. They give you big, cleaned.
They give you the
pristine
entire
leaves
romaine.
of romaine.
Yeah.
The entire romaine.
At Sill, you order the lettuce wraps. They gave you basically 3 or 4 leaves of romaine with a ton of different like mixed green salad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was weird.
It was like, okay, you guys hit the ball out of the park with the meats, and then with the leaves, you guys don't know your pants from your shirts.
They've
For
heard
real.
they've heard of lettuce before. They've heard of
Salad?
plants.
What is a salad?
Exactly.
I don't think I've
is-
heard of salad before.
What are
Yeah.
leaves?
What is
they're,
Roman?
Their side dishes are pretty good too. Like they give you side dishes.
yeah.
I wish the kimchi's not as good. I think Gogi's kimchi's better.
I love
Yes.
Gogi's kimchi. It would be very difficult to hold a candle to that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I would say for the big thing that you're paying for, which is the proteins.
The Niku.
Yeah,
You're
Seoul
there for
is
the
pretty
meats.
pretty good, and I will say that I kind of stayed away from Seoul for a while because I don't think I didn't like what they were offering during like COVID essentially.
Even before COVID, like I remember when they transitioned off of like a restaurant menu to just all you can eat.
Yeah,
And I recall that not being my favoriteest thing.
yeah.
So
It looks
yeah.
like they have transitioned back to having a restaurant menu as well as all you can eat.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
the thing about all you can eat is that if anyone orders it, everyone has to.
Which
Yeah,
is fine.
but
That's
that's
pretty
standard.
standard in most
Exactly.
places.
That's just the way that it works. But they had a proper like restaurant menu otherwise. So if you wanted to just get smaller portions and not spend $40 per person, that was a way to do it.
So, very short story. I'll go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I used to get colds in the winter that would absolutely destroy my vocal cords. I would lose the ability to control my voice in any meaningful way. I still had a voice, but being able to control it was extremely difficult. It's like if you were trying to steer a car and the steering wheel only worked 10% of the time. It was extremely difficult for me.
Oh, okay. I know exactly what that's like.
Yes, you would. That's why I use that specific analogy.
Yeah.
But it was really hard for me because I was doing voice acting for like 15 years. So every winter, if I had this destroy my voice and then it was another like a month to recover from it, it was just like 2 months that I just couldn't work. And the thing that I discovered that helped me immensely with the cold itself, but also with just like feeling very nourished and feeling very much like I was actually recovering, was going to Seoul and getting one of their hot soups that they make with pork bones.
Okay.
And it's just chock full of like random proteins. There's a bunch of greens in the bottom. There's a little bit of noodle in there if you look hard. There's a bunch of mushrooms, but it was extremely nourishing. And I would go have it for dinner one night, and the next day I would feel like super energized, like, oh my god, I'm ready to go. I haven't had caffeine, but I am so ready to go. I feel better. And they took that off the menu, and I was
dare they?
extremely upset because, well, that's when they moved to all you can eat only, so I haven't gone back since. I hope that their normal restaurant menu still has that.
You can probably look it up online to see if their menu has it. Probably.
Yeah, because that was amazing. That was a cure-all for so many things.
Good soup can be like that.
Yeah.
Good soup.
Soup.
But speaking of voice acting and being out of work, Bayonetta 3 blew up on Twitter. I saw the other day.
Yeah.
Sure did. It sure did.
It certainly did.
For good reasons, right? For good reasons. Things always blow up on Twitter for good reasons.
I mean, the original actress for Bayonetta, like the person who created the Bayonetta voice.
Who also has a perfect name for her name is great. Her actual name is great.
Helena Taylor?
Yeah. Just love because
just
the way it's spelled. It's HELLENA.
I didn't even make that connection until you said that.
And I noticed, and I was just like, yes, perfect for this witch. I love it.
She's come out on Twitter and asked that if you loved the character that she created, if you loved her work, and you loved the Bayonetta, to not buy Bayonetta 3, to boycott it, and instead to donate the money you would otherwise have spent on that to a worthy charity of your choice. And I think that's a really great thing to ask people to do. Like, if you were going to spend that money anyway, spend it on something perhaps better that is not a commercial good, especially one that has more or less screwed her over. They offered her a paltry amount for a full buyout of the game. So full buyout means that you are no longer getting things like
royalties.
The flat
royalties
rate.
from anything. It's just full buyout. This is what we're paying you for your time, the licensing, and we get to use this
your voice or the materials that
recordings
you've done
forever. In perpetuity. And we often see contracts like that for mid-size projects. Full buyouts are usually small to mid things that you do with your actors. When you get into a really big franchise like Bayonetta or any other large franchise that you can think of, very often you'll see things that include residual royalties or something that continues to give that actor recognition for the work that they put in to create that part of the franchise.
And it's especially relevant for Helena Taylor because something that people have to understand with the Bayonetta franchise is that Bayonetta as a character was originally created in English.
Yes,
she
doesn't
not
have a Japanese voice.
Mm-hmm.
She does have a Japanese voice now.
Oh,
yes,
now.
she does, but she did not originally.
No, she didn't.
And that they didn't add a Japanese voice until close to the release of the first Bayonetta game. And so she didn't have, all of her character creation was done with her English voice. All of the marketing, all of the original stuff to promote the games were all done with Helena Taylor's voice. And like many voice actors, she's done a lot of work outside of the games, to do things that support the franchise and support the fans of the game. This is things like appearances at events, things like, signings and other opportunities that sort of give back to the franchise, because it's like, hey, you can come to our, special Bayonetta themed event and Bayonetta will be there and you can, ask her questions and hear her voice and stuff. And so she's participated in a big part of this franchise. And the franchise is a really big success for Platinum Games. Platinum Games is it's relatively speaking considered a mid-size indie studio, in that aside from the Bayonetta franchise, most of the other works from the studio are not particularly well known and not necessarily beloved, not to the point where Bayonetta was the launch project for the studio, and to date it is the only really successful IP from the studio. It's the IP that built the studio. So calling the amount paltry is honestly kind. It's being generous to think that, the voice that helped build your studio is only worth, $4,000 as a one-time fee. That's, maybe, if you live as a single individual, you have no children, no dependents, that is maybe like a month's worth of living expenses
for a professional worker.
Without like, and I say maybe it's about a month's worth because it doesn't factor in things like when you are, voice talent or other kind of contractor, you don't get things like paid benefits. You don't get things like health insurance. You don't get things like standardized time off or paid vacation. You don't get any of those things. And so your wage compensation is supposed to compensate for that. And $4,000 does not compensate. I don't even think it even fairly compensates the amount of time she would spend in the booth recording the character, much less anything else, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. And
it was basically constructive dismissal.
It really was, and it's very frustrating as well, because when people had noticed that the voice talent had changed in the trailers for Bayonetta 3, a lot of people asked about it, and the official statement put out was that it was a scheduling conflict.
Yes, that was an abysmal thing to do. I couldn't imagine that someone rejected your offer and your public response was, scheduling. We couldn't make
the schedule work. And so they hired a different voice talent, who I'm not going to... large voice talent who is, sort of known as like the grandmother of voice work and voice work in the English space. Someone who is also, in North America, that's a good point, who is also very well known for being a union voice talent member and for being very vocally supportive of voice talent and voice talent unions, who probably also got fed the lie of, we're having you replace this person's voice because they aren't available, which is very,
underhanded,
cruel and unfair, and underhanded as well, because knowing how big this talent is, and I'm specifically not using her name because I always worry that people are going to think that it's her fault and she's being a scab, but we don't know that that's the case.
We don't know her side of the story, and we also don't know several other details. Like, I'm not saying that what Ms. Taylor came out with is a lie. I absolutely 100% believe her. But I also don't want this to be witch hunty. There's always the other side of the story. For all we know, they offered her what is fair, and this was done in a way to effectively replace their star actor with an even bigger name.
With a bigger star.
Right, and this was a way to do it. I hate it. It's underhanded, but I want to know what really happened.
What really happened
and
why.
A lot of people do.
Exactly.
But it's not a call to witch hunt people.
Exactly. It's not a call to witch hunt people. It's a call to ask for answers and also to hold,
people
as a
accountable
consumer,
for-
you can hold people accountable with your wallet. And so, we don't really know why, but we know that there's no way they got this talent that they've chosen to replace Bayonetta. They did not get her for $4,000. They almost certainly paid far, far more than that. So it's a little bit frustrating, I think, for a lot of the fans. Bayonetta is a very beloved series, and a very beloved character, and so it's really sad to see, her original voice talent be treated
so
that way,
mistreated.
and to be so sad about it. She talked about how, she doesn't care that, she's breaking an NDA, which is, a legally binding contract, to talk about her situation. Because in her own words, if they are going to sue her, she has nothing left to give anyway. So what are they going to sue her for?
I believe the words she used for what are they going to do, take the clothes off my back. And that is heart-wrenching for me.
Yeah, it's the idea that she really has nothing left to give. And I always think that is really sad. Like, it doesn't matter what industry it's in. But of course, when it comes to video games and voice acting, that's very personal, I think, to us and members of the Otafest, podcast team, because we care so much about anime and video games. But just in general, it's always sad to see the labor and talent of dedicated and passionate workers be, taken advantage of and discarded that way.
I blame Nintendo for this.
Did you see
Lots
the
of people
weird?
do.
Did you see the weird tweet response by Hideki Kamiya?
No.
I did, and I want to talk about this because Hideki Kamiya has been.
Let's say what it said first. How
Yeah,
about
you go ahead. You
let's
go
start with-
ahead.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, so Hideki Kamiya is the Japanese
Vice president of Platinum Games.
Yeah. And now I won't say that there's no possible mistranslation of what he was saying, but it does come out kind of weird. The first thing he says, it's two sentences. First part is sad and deplorable about the attitude of untruth. That's all I can tell you now. And then the second part is, by the way, and then in big capital letters, beware of my rules, which is weird English translation, I'm
So
sure,
that's-
but it's
no,
also
no, that's
just
very
a
Kamiya. I'll explain
strange-
after.
It's just also it can definitely be interpreted very poorly as a sort of a threat, sort of oh, I'm sort of above all of this, and I'm going to, make sure that you'll never come back to our projects, or, you know what I mean?
Oh, guaranteed.
Okay, so let me give you some background on
Yeah.
what Hideki Kamiya is like on Twitter. So, for a long time, I think a lot of fans of Bayonetta and of any of Platinum Games' work have kind of dismissed the way that Hideki Kamiya acts on social media as haha, quirky Japanese dude who he's culturally different from us Westerners and from everyone else in the world, and he's very Japanese, and so he has very
makes it
peculiar
okay.
He has very peculiar ways of interacting with people online, and so Hideki Kamiya has these rules for how he wants people to interact with him on Twitter, not how he interacts on Twitter, how he demands that people interact
Respects
with
him, essentially.
on Twitter. Exactly. Which is that don't type to him in any language other than Japanese, which is to say do not reply to his tweets, don't quote retweet him, don't interact with him, don't DM him, don't anything unless it's in Japanese. And do not ask him questions about games, don't ask him questions about characters, don't offer him any criticism of what you think about his games, his studio, or his characters. The only thing he wants to hear is love and adoration for his work, and he wants to hear it in Japanese. And if he doesn't hear it, he's going to block you.
In other words, he's an asshole.
Yes.
Oh,
and so
lovely.
he has been it's kind of been a sort of meme in the gaming community of speedrunning how quickly you can get blocked by Hideki Kamiya and the amount of people that must be on his block list. And after yesterday, it's kind of expanded because the way that he refers to people that don't respect his rules, as he puts it, he calls them insects. And so to him, blocking them is like squishing a bug, like squishing an insect. And that's how he refers to people, if they type at him in English or if they say things to him in Japanese that he doesn't like. And so he's been on a blocking spree, of course, because people have been, responding to his very cryptic and weird tweets
Well, he's
about
even
the
been
situation.
blocking. He's even been blocking people in media and
People in media, people completely unrelated,
Yeah.
people who have never interacted with him. People are like, I don't know who this guy is, but now I'm blocked. And he's blocked so many people that as of last night and continuing into today, he's blocked so many people so quickly and that Twitter has restricted his account because to them it looks suspicious. That someone is blocking this many people so quickly. So it's very much, the fact of the matter is Hideki Kamiya is not a quirky Japanese guy who just doesn't understand the internet or doesn't understand how social media or Twitter works. It's a guy who wants his soapbox and wants to protect his soapbox and is finding out the hard way that you can say that you have rules about how you want people to interact with you. But you cannot set boundaries that way on the internet. It doesn't work that way. That the boundary of who can talk to you and in what language is not really, and about what is not really set by you, unfortunately.
Having that said, blocking things you don't want to see on social media is probably the most healthy thing you can do. I'm sure Kamiya has the best mental health on the internet.
I'm sure he does. And the
possibly
thing is, if he wants to block people, that's his right. That's what the block button exists for. But I think the thing that bothers people that has always kind of rubbed me the wrong way is that he advertises it. Right? It's not like he blocks people and then moves on. He, makes a big show of the fact that, here's another insect that I've squashed. Here's another bug that I've blocked.
Oh yeah, no, he's an asshole.
He's very arrogant about it. And I think people are finally, this is the final straw for a lot of people of, we can kind of, we really like your games and we can really support your content, but,
If we're talking about him in English, does that mean that Otafest is going to get blocked?
Maybe. Assuming we aren't already.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Let's
Probably.
go, blocked by Kamiya. It only took 25 years.
True.
But it's a very sad situation just because, I feel for anybody who has done a job that they're passionate about and has been sort of had the rug pulled under their feet by, whether it's, capitalistic greed or, some corporate bureaucratic decision that happens 10 feet above you and isn't communicated to you, and is done with disregard for how it affects you and your life and your mental health. I really feel for her. And so I can only hope that, she's able to find voice work that gives her fulfillment. And I know for myself, I won't be buying Bayonetta 3. And I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna tell anyone else what they want to do. If you are really looking forward to Bayonetta 3 and you really want to play it, that's your decision. But I know for myself, I'm not going to be playing Bayonetta 3 because it would just hurt too much to know at the cost at which this production came.
Yeah, and I think that little voice actor sensor meter thingy in my head would probably just be screaming red bells a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, to end this off on something of a positive note, apparently Blink-182 is back?
Say what?
This is a band that was when I was like 12 years old.
When I was your age,
And
I blinked 182 times and it was great.
all I can say, is that one of my favorite songs by them is What's My Age Again, which is basically a power ballad of early 20s shenanigans. And I want Blink-182 to sing that song again, but legitimately asking what is their age again.
Well, the big thing is them being together again is because all the main cast members are back. They're not it's not just like the name is continuing with different band members. So
The band itself
is back. I have a story from when I was in grade 8, I think. And one of their big songs around that time was I Miss You.
Yes.
And we were in science class and we had just like finished a quiz and the song was stuck in my head. So I started humming it and other people who like finished the song started like joining in and we kind of had like a High School Musical moment and we kind of sang the song together in the middle of the class and the teacher didn't even stop it. So that was real nice of her.
Nice.
And it was just kind of a cool
memory.
moment. And
that's a
that
moment.
actually happened more than once in my life in school where we just broke out into songs sometimes. I'm not even part of like choir or like band. It just happened.
But I can
Real
just
High School
imagine
Musical
them.
moment.
I can imagine them taking the stage and being like, and that's about the time she walked away from me. Nobody likes you when you're 83.
The only
and
negative
you're
thing-
asking them what is a meme.
The
What the heck
only
is
negative
Courage
thing-
Wolf? What's my age again? What's my age again?
The only bad
God.
thing is because it's like
Podcast retirement home.
OG band members and OG performances, even though they are coming with new music as well, the tickets are hella expense.
Of course.
Of course they are.
Obviously.
Fans new and old want
Nostalgia
to see
is
this.
a powerful drug.
Nostalgia is a powerful marketing tool.
Also, yes, as we've seen in theaters several times in the last many years, nostalgia.
Too many years.
Nostalgia pays the big bucks, the big bills.
And next week, you'll be nostalgic for this episode.
Yeah, that's
Remember
true. That's how
that
that
time?
works.
Remember that time we talked about Bayonetta 3?
I remember that time.
And
No.
that Angelo spontaneously broke out into song pretending to be an 80-year-old.
When we
Pretending.
retire,
Good
we are
times.
probably going to break out into song.
I'm telling you, and then we're all gonna
Noodle?
and then we're all gonna be in the same retirement home, and we're
Yes.
gonna have Google Stadias, and we're
Yeah.
gonna play games together.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're all going to be in the metaverse with our legs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll have legs.
I remember legs.
Goodness,
I
knows my
remember
legs are probably not
outside.
going to be working.
I haven't walked in 30 years. This Mark Zuckerberg has some fantastic technology.
All right, I'm good now. Goodbye.
Night, folks.
Goodbye, everybody.
Farewell, youngsters.